Hey, I'm Stephanie, and today we're talking about what it's like to go from maximalism to minimalism, specifically in the context of makeup. Now, these words can be defined in different ways. They're a bit relative. So just for the context of today's video, we're going to talk about maximalism as just having an abundance, like an overabundance of a thing, and then going from that overabundance to living with just the bare essentials in that category. I realize makeup is not really an essential, so when we're talking about essentials, it's relative. For me, makeup began as a tool and then it kind of morphed into being a hobby over the years. I originally just started wearing it for my work as a performer. And then as I realized how much fun it was for me to apply it, I ended up kind of collecting more and more of it. But it also kind of became a more important aspect of my life. My morning moments of makeup application have become kind of like my personal form of meditation. Painting my face is like my own personal moment of zen. So that's why I really think of myself as a true maximalist when it comes to makeup, because not only do I have an overabundance of it, but it also has kind of a large value in my life. Even if it doesn't take up a whole lot of time in my day, the time that it does take up is very valuable to me. I enjoy that time. I realize I am on YouTube talking about things like beauty and makeup, but although I am technically a beauty tuber, I don't have a dedicated beauty room filled with drawers upon drawers of makeup. But I do definitely have more makeup than any one face would ever need over an entire lifetime. So that's the starting point, the point of maximalism. So how have I suddenly become a makeup minimalist? As an experiment. I was traveling for several months and I decided to deliberately pack as little makeup as I thought I could get away with while I was traveling, and it all fit into this bag. Now, I realize there are many people out there who would consider a makeup bag of this size quite generous, and it would be more than they would ever need. But for someone going from an enormous collection to just this, the change was quite dramatic. So today we're going to take a quick look at what was in my travel makeup bag for the past several months, and we're also going to talk about how and if this experiment has changed my attitude towards my makeup. So let's take a look at what I have been using for the past couple of months. I will link everything below. The bag, first of all, is from ESUM Cosmetics. I like this bag not only because of the bag itself, but also because it perfectly fits inside my larger ESUM Cosmetics bag, which is what I typically take with me when I'm on tour and I need access to more things. But this is what I used to contain my minimalist collection, and I like it because it's got a semi-hard case, which means everything in here is relatively protected, so I don't have to necessarily worry about things getting squished because it has a lot of structure. It also has a really nice zipper that works really well, and when I open it up, you can see it has a compartment for brushes and then a separate compartment that you can zip closed for my makeup. And that is great because if something were to explode in here, like this foundation, then it's not necessarily going to get all over my brushes, because I don't know about you, I'm not a fan of cleaning brushes. I do it a lot. Maybe that's why I don't like it very much. Let's begin with the base products, starting with primer. I brought an eyeshadow primer because if I don't use an eyeshadow primer on my extremely oily hooded eyelids, then eyeshadow just won't stay put. So this was absolutely necessary. Can't go without it. I chose not to bring a face primer because I just simply find that the majority of primers, although they can help my makeup look nice, I haven't found one yet that really impressed me so much that I felt like I couldn't live without it. So I didn't bring any primers with me. When it came to complexion products, I chose 3. The first one we'll talk about is the under eye corrector. As someone with naturally dark under eyes and the fact that I was going to be traveling and experiencing jet lag, I thought this is something I just really didn't want to live without. This is my favorite color corrector to date, and it's the Charlotte Tilbury color corrector in shade 2, medium, this very peachy shade. And this has just been the most versatile one that I have tried to date. I've tried a lot of really good ones, but this one is the most flexible. I find that it can be used on days where I'm wearing nothing else. So if I just want to cover my dark circles but don't have time to do more makeup, this works that way. It also works with several different finishes. I find that it's relatively flexible that way as well. So I just thought this one would be my best bet for the smoothest, most awake looking under eyes. And I chose to top that with this Lancome Teint Idole Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. The reason that I chose this particular one is because it's the highest coverage concealer that I currently own. And if I can only bring one option with me for concealer, I want it to be as flexible as possible. And choosing a high coverage product like this gives me that flexibility, because if I need the coverage, I have it. But if I want less coverage, I can thin this out with something like a moisturizer or maybe a product with less coverage. If I need to change the finish, for example, this is a matte product, but if I need to change the finish, I can maybe add a highlighting product to it. So I just found that this is something that would kind of cover all bases if I really needed it to. And the foundation I chose to bring with me was the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. And I chose this one because it also has a pretty high degree of coverage. And just like with that high coverage concealer, I can thin this out if I don't want as much coverage. So I did like that. And I was also interested in the finish of this. I was traveling during the winter, and so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a completely matte finish, because then I might look a little bit too dry. And this kind of satin natural finish I thought would be the ideal choice for the winter. And the last of the cream and liquid products I chose to bring was this Active Lip and Cheek palette, which has unfortunately since been discontinued, but I'm still getting a whole lot of use out of it. And I chose this one because it gave me a whole lot of flexibility in a tiny amount of space. So I have a cream highlighter, 2 cream blushes, and a cream bronzer. And it just fits into this nice little package. I can use this on my lips. I can use this on my cheeks. It really gave me also a lot of flexibility. Because I do have oily combination skin, I do need to use a powder to set my cream and liquid makeup. And so I chose to bring the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder. And the reason I chose this one was because, once again, I was traveling during the winter, which means that my skin is at its driest. So the oils aren't going to be at their worst. And that means that I can use a powder like this very well. I find that it does a good job of setting my makeup while also doing an excellent job of blurring pores, which is something I'm quite concerned about because I have very large pores in the center of my face where I'm my oiliest. At the same time, this doesn't completely mattify the face. It's not necessarily the most mattifying powder out there. And in the wintertime, I feel like the look of my skin benefits from that. And because I have oily combination skin, I do like to set my cream cheek products with powder products, just because I feel like that gives everything more longevity. And so in order to do that, I chose this face palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is a limited edition palette that came out one Christmas, but I think she brings these out every so often. I'm not sure the last time she brought one out, but there are still some out there on the market. These are so convenient for travel. I really like the color of eyeshadows in here, but I specifically brought this one for the face palette options because it gave me a nice bronzer, a beautiful highlighter, and 2 blush options. And so I was able to set all of the powders on the outsides of my face with that, making sure that that color also had some longevity. I did also bring this for the eyeshadows. I did use the eyeshadows, and this was also kind of a way for me to cheat because eyeshadow is the cosmetic category that brings me the most excitement. And so it was like I brought one eyeshadow palette with this, and then I brought another one. The other eyeshadow palette option I brought with me was a Tom Ford quad because I am a sucker for Tom Ford, especially the wet dry formula and the creme formula, which this one is. This happens to be the Tiger Eye palette, and it has a special place in my heart because I got it as an early Christmas gift. So I wanted to take it with me on my travels, and I'm so glad I did because, number one, I find that these cream formula palettes are pretty flexible. The wet dry formula is not quite as flexible because they always have some degree of shine to them, but this one does have a matte option. And what I like about this brown color is that it's very easy to blend out. So even though it's quite dark, you can just use it as a subtle contouring shade by blending it out really nicely, and then it's not that dark at all. But it can be built up to be quite dark, giving me a lot of definition. I have kind of a goldish option, a peachy option, a bronzy option, and all of them just fit my skin tone. So I really, really enjoyed having this with me and the flexibility it gave me. The remaining handful of products are all lips, liners, and lashes. So let's get started with the lipstick I brought. It's by Chanel. It's the Rouge Cocoa formula in shade 402 Atrian. And it's just kind of a subtle peachy beige color. For someone like me who just adores nude lipsticks, this was a very easy choice because it's very flexible. It's going to fit with anything that I choose to wear. And it's easy to wear, easy to apply, comfortable formula, beautiful on the lips. So if I only have one lipstick, this is a good choice. There were a couple of other ones. I have a Tom Ford lipstick, I think in the shade Dévoré, I was thinking of bringing with me. I have a Givenchy lipstick that I really like, but that one was a little bit too pink for me. It was a little bit too extreme. I wanted to bring something that was very nude, that was going to just kind of blend in with anything, and this really did that for me. And I chose to pair this Adrian lipstick with this Lip Cheat lip pencil from Charlotte Tilbury in the shade Iconic Nude. And when I brought this with me, actually, it was just a little bitty stub of a pencil. And unfortunately, I underestimated how much I was going to use it. I ended up running out while I was traveling and had to buy this while I was away, which isn't ideal. Not because I don't love this. I think this is a great product. I'm glad I have it. I'm going to be using it all the time, but I've been on a bit of a slow beauty journey over the past 2 years. In 2022, I did a no-buy year. Last year in 2023, I began my Adagio beauty journey, which for me means taking time to just really slow down and enjoy what I have and maybe not purchase so many new things. And that slow beauty journey has taught me something about lip liners. And that is, as much as I love the idea of having the perfect lip liner to pair with every single lipstick that I have, that's just not necessary. Really, if I have 3 mid-tone nudes, 1 warm, 1 neutral, 1 cool, and 1 red, 4, that would probably be all I would ever really need to make the perfect lip look for any lipstick. And so I have enough. Like, had I just had access to the rest of my lip liner collection, I wouldn't have had to purchase this. But because I was traveling and this is all I had, I ended up repurchasing this. So am I mad that I have it? Definitely not. I'm really glad I have it. But did I need it? No. The eyeliner I chose to bring with me was this Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place eye pencil in the shade 2 Coffee, just because no matter what, it stays in place. It's actually not my favorite liner. It's very, very stiff. So it's kind of hard to apply. I find I kind of have to tug on my eyes a little bit to get it on. But once it's on, it looks great and it stays put. And I just thought, I just wanted to bring something that was going to stay put. I wasn't going to have to worry about smudging, and I kind of want to just use it up. So that's why I brought it with me. In hindsight, I probably would have wanted to bring one of my favorites just because I missed them. But this did work well. Like I said, once it's on, it doesn't budge. So I did like that about it. And I liked the fact that it had an integrated smudger. Something like that is extremely useful. And so I was happy to have that along with me as well. I also chose to bring a brow product because as a blonde person, if I go out in the sunlight, my eyebrows completely disappear from my face unless I'm wearing a brow product. So I decided to bring this Flawlush Brow Duo from Undone Beauty. And I brought it because it has both a pen and a gel, both of which work quite nicely and come in a very compact format. So it's very efficient in my little tiny makeup bag. And last but not least, mascara. I currently don't have the one I originally packed when I started my trip because it expired while I was traveling. I am the type of person, I exchange my mascara like clockwork every 3 months. So I replaced it with a drugstore mascara. I decided to get the Maybelline New York Falsies Surreal Mascara. This is the first time I've ever tried it. And my first impressions of it are that it's nice. It's not quite the color I wanted. I got it in black brown. I would have liked a softer brown, but this is the softest brown I could find. The formula is nice. It lengthens just a little bit, thickens quite a good deal. It doesn't seem to flake, doesn't seem to smudge, but of course I'll only be able to fully report back once the full 3 months of this has been used up. So that was the makeup I packed for this experiment, and to me, it felt quite minimalist. I'm not quite sure how accurate that feeling is because I've been a makeup maximalist for so long that cutting down by any amount might seem minimalist to me. So I'm curious to see if you thought that I did a good job creating a minimalist makeup bag. Costume change! If you're wondering why everything suddenly looks a little different, I had some technical difficulties and am re-recording this part of the video on a different day. So I believe that we left off with me asking you if you thought that I met the brief when creating a minimalist makeup bag. And as much as I am looking forward to reading your answers to that question in the comments, I do think that within the context of this experiment, the most important aspect is whether I felt like it was a minimalist makeup collection, and I definitely felt the constraints. Going from my whole collection down to just one makeup bag was definitely limiting to me and felt quite minimalist. So the question now is, what did this experiment teach me? Now that I have been living as a makeup minimalist for a while now, is it a path that I want to continue walking? And the answer is, drumroll please, no, definitely not. I sorely missed having access to all my goodies, but this exercise gave me deeper insights into why I'm a makeup maximalist, about what's actually important to me and what that could mean for the future of my collection. So first, what are my personal motivations for being a makeup maximalist? And after this experiment, I think it's probably mainly two factors. The first of which is that I really like great makeup application in all aspects: finish, nuance, color, longevity, all of it. I know how I want to look, and even though I am a firm believer that improving my makeup techniques can go a very long way to achieving my desired look, I also am aware of the fact that sometimes specific products just go a long way to making things easier. Case in point, during this experiment, I realized that I was missing a very specific product category that very much surprised me because I have never really thought of it as necessary before, and that is face primer. My Armani Luminous Silk Foundation doesn't normally need a primer, but it is slowly aging out of my collection. I don't remember exactly when I got it, but it's more than 2 years old because I definitely had it before my no-buy year. And even though the product doesn't smell funny, it's not separating, it doesn't irritate my skin, it's not performing like it used to. I used to just be able to apply it willy-nilly and it always looked great, and now it requires finessing, which just means to me it's showing its age, so it's a good thing that I'm almost done with the bottle. And although I was able to help the foundation a little bit by adjusting my application technique, it just never really sat quite right on my skin. It would gather in my pores, look a little bit dry, it would fade really quickly. But since I've returned home, I started applying my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base Primer beforehand, and all of a sudden, it's so much easier to get the beautiful finish that I'm used to from that foundation. And while I was traveling, I found that the foundation simply wouldn't stick to my nose. To be fair, that's an issue I have with most foundations, but not normally the Luminous Silk one. And I couldn't figure out how to fix that problem, but since I've been home, I started using my Sisley Blur Expert Priming Powder on my nose before applying the foundation, and suddenly I have foundation on my nose again. And face primers aren't even a makeup category that I'm technically super interested in, yet I'm willing to take the time to put 2 different primers on different areas of my face. I don't think that's a very minimalist approach to makeup, but it's my approach because it makes the end result look so much better and it makes the whole makeup application process so much more fun. So that's one factor. My second motivating factor is simply my joy of variety. I really enjoy all categories of makeup, but probably at the top of that list is color cosmetics, and at the tippy top of the list is eyeshadows. I just can't get enough of them. Palette hopping is my cardio. And I know some people get overwhelmed if they have a drawer full of eyeshadows, but not me. I can't wait to get in there and just get my phalanges in all of them. But I think one of the reasons I am so excited to play with all of my makeup is because I have now spent 2 whole years culling things, slowly decluttering, and really carefully curating my collection. So now it only contains things I genuinely love. I stopped buying makeup for a whole year, and then when I started buying makeup again, I stopped buying it en masse. I stopped impulse buying it because I wanted to spend more of my time really doing a deep dive into my collection, getting to know it, comparing things, and only genuinely keeping what worked the best for me. And I've been much more mindful about the purchases I do make. That doesn't mean I had a perfect 10 out of 10 purchasing record last year. Case in point, Contourgate 2023. I'll link the video in case you missed it. But when I zoom out and I look at the big picture, I now find that my joy in makeup comes mostly from using it and much less from purchasing it. And I think that is the key to me being happy as a makeup maximalist. Because here's the thing. I've been feeling pretty overwhelmed lately, and in an effort to combat that feeling, I've been trying to simplify my life. And one of the ways I've been doing that is trying to reduce the amount of inventory I have in my home that I have to manage. And considering the just sheer amount of makeup I have, that's a lot to manage. And so I was kind of wondering if maybe my overabundance of makeup could potentially be diminishing my joy in it, especially considering that it's all really just dirt. It's dirt pressed into tiny little pans. And in my case, the majority of those dirt-filled pans are just filled with varying shades of beige. So dirt-colored dirt. And I guess the point of this experiment for me was to find out if it's really worth having that massive amount of beige or just makeup in general, and if it's really adding value to my life. And as absurd as it seems in this context, the answer is yes. All of this makeup does add value to my life. So although I am trying to streamline my life, I will be gentle in that respect when it comes to my makeup collection, simply because it does bring me so much joy. However, I don't want my overabundance in that category to become a burden. And that for me means that I want it to be easily organized, easy to clean, easy to access, so that my Swatch Goblin self can freely frolic in the dirt whenever I want. So that means I will be continuing my Adagio beauty or slow beauty journey this year, but it also means that I might have to put some organic constraints on my collection and or purchasing behaviors just to ensure that my makeup mountain doesn't become too large and unwieldy, which actually might not be a bad idea for some other videos. If that sort of thing sounds like something you might want to watch, then perhaps you'd like to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, all that jazz. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great week and that we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.